And so next, our next panelist is, the most renowned attorney in the common interest space. His name is Adrian Adams. He's a managing partner of the Adams Sterling Professional Law Corporation. His bio is just like Dr. Lucy Jones. I have to look at it to even say half the things he's done in his career. Adrian is a founding member of the CID Law Organization, a founding member of the Critical Issues think tank of National Foundation of Community Associations Research, a board member of the Foundation of Community Associations, a member of the Task Force on Aging Infrastructure, past board member of the LA and Orange County chapters of the Community Association Institute, a past delegate on the CAI's California Legislative Action Committee. I believe he may even be the president of the current CAI's Legislative Action Committee, and I think he's the president of the current task force on insurance issues in California or the country, one of the two. He's most notable for the creation of the Davis Sterling website. It's a small little resource that I think gets 1 million visitors a month, something crazy like that. And his partner, we may all have heard of him, is the man who wrote the law that governs all residential and mixed-use developments in California, the Davis Sterling Act. With that, I'll let Adrian take the floor and speak to some of the legal issues that boards and communities are facing with earthquakes insurance, or just earthquakes in general.
Okay, thank you, Dan. On the slides, are you guys doing that or am I? You're muted.
If you want to share the screen, if you have it right there in front of you.
Okay, let's do that then. All right, I don't know, can you see the screen, the slides?
Yeah, we can see them perfectly.
Okay, and let's get this up. Is it still showing on your screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to talk about just some practical application. Dr. Jones dealt with the technical aspects of earthquakes, and we're going to look at just briefly what it is that an association can do, particular boards of directors and managers. And the problem with an earthquake causing damage, such as it did in the 94 Northridge earthquake, if you're a condominium association, your unit might not particularly be damaged, but the rest of the structures in the association might be. You're going to be equally responsible for that damage because it's all common area. And so you want to make sure that your association can do what it can in order to minimize that potential loss, so that you're not suffering economically from those losses. So one of the things to look at is on risk management. What is it that you can do? And I'm going to be looking a little to my left because that's where it is on my screen. But boards can take steps to reduce potential damage, and managers should also be involved in helping manage that. And boards, in addition to reducing the potential physical damage, should also transfer risk. And that's what Dan Wallace is going to talk to you about, and that's insurance and what it is that you can do to insure against earthquakes.
Adrian,
yes.
Maybe, so your slides aren't changing along with you. Let me.
Is that something you guys can show the slides?
Yeah, let me, bear with me, everyone. Let me just grab the slides and let me share. Let me get this up and, oh, there we go. It was able to share. If you maybe just click on Adrian, because at this juncture for me to go get your slides and it may just be more difficult.
Say that again.
Well, you were just able to change that, but I think by probably clicking on a different slide.
Okay.
And so are you at investigate right now?
All right. So how's that look?
It looks great. Let me see if we can. It looks great. If you could just, as you, it's going to be easiest because your slides are in my email, and it's going to be too hard for me to get that to a place where I can share it. So if you could just,
yeah, if you can still, if you can see mine, I'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I can see yours. It just, as you change, I think you have to click on the new slide.
Okay.
And so what we can see right now is investigate.
Investigate.
Yep.
All right. So one of the things that boards can do, and managers can assist in that, is to have somebody come in and investigate, basically review your property and see if there are things that can be done in order to make it safer for an earthquake, such as making sure the gas shutoff valves are installed, water heaters are strapped, that the posts that Dr. Jones talked about, that soft first story, that those are reinforced. And I know Santa Monica had passed an ordinance requiring that. So throughout the city of Santa Monica, they were reinforcing all of these. If you're in a city that doesn't require it, you might do it anyway. It's set aside the money and reinforce that soft first story so that you don't suffer collapses of buildings in an earthquake. And then, of course, there's the balcony inspections now that are required by law. And the mandate for that kicks in January 1, 2025. You have to have them inspected by then so that you'll know if there are structural deficiencies within your elevated structures. So even though we call it the balcony bill, it's all elevated structures. And it's something that you could get great deal more information about it from our website. And it'll lay out in detail and show pictures as to what needs to be done. Okay, let's see if we can get to the next one. Governing documents. Have legal review, have your association's attorney review your documents on what you're required to do on insuring, and see if earthquake insurance is one of those. I have not seen very many sets of CC&Rs that require that, but in the event that you have a set that requires it, then you want to make sure that you do have insurance. And then what are the rebuilding provisions and what's required on rebuilding? Is it mandated so that even if there's a complete loss, are you required to go ahead and rebuild your building? Or is it something that where you can walk away, as some homeowners did, from their units? And then look at the reserve funding and reserve funding requirements. You want to make sure that you've got sufficient reserves, because you may be tapping into those reserves in order to take care of immediate issues following an earthquake. You want to make sure that you have the power to borrow money, that the association is authorized to do that, and then the power to dissolve. So for example, Champlain Towers in Surfside, Florida, when it collapsed, interestingly enough, even though the building wasn't there, the condominium units still were. They were up in the air because all there is cubes of air and with a particular location. So the association continued to exist. And as you might know, there was a settlement in that case, $1 billion settlement. And one of the things I'm sure that they are doing now is dissolving that association so it no longer exists. Okay, let's look at the next one, insurance. You want to look at with your insurance agent, what kinds of insurance do you have? Do you have sufficient coverage? Is it walls in? Do you have CGL for fire? Because fires will sometimes follow an earthquake. And again, do you have the earthquake insurance, which Dan will talk about? And is it going to cover things like for water damage? And what homeowner insurance do owners have? What are they required to have? So all of these issues are important issues that you need to look at with your insurance agent and perhaps with legal counsel as well. Okay, if you don't have insurance, the association currently does not have earthquake insurance, you're going to be looking at large special assessments following an earthquake. And you're going to be borrowing, and there's going to be debt service. If you do have insurance, earthquake insurance now, sometimes I get the question from boards, well, the premiums are expensive, the deductible's high, can we just cancel? Well, boards do have the authority to cancel or not renew, but I advise against it. Because as soon as you cancel, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get hit with an earthquake. And then the homeowners are going to want to sue the board of directors for having let the insurance lapse. So if it's an issue where it's really significant, the association really can't afford it, put it to a vote of the members. Let them make that decision rather than the board. It helps to insulate against additional litigation. Okay, so borrowing money, you've got sources, various sources following an earthquake through conventional lenders, SBA, and FEMA. And the things that they're going to be looking at, one is what we already talked about: does the board have the power to borrow? Is it going to require a vote of the membership in order to authorize the borrowing? And if so, that may be difficult to do because people may be scattered following an earthquake because they can't live in the building. So it may be difficult to get the vote that you need in order to do the borrowing. And then, those associations with 25 or more units, it's a little easier. It reduces the risk because it's spread across more people for the assessments and the borrowing repayments. And one of the things also that the lenders will look at is what are the delinquencies in the association? Is it less than 10% or greater? Is it more than 60 days that are past due? Because that may impact whether they're willing to lend the money and or at what rate they'll lend it at. So it's important for boards now to keep their delinquencies down as low as possible, because it makes you a better risk for borrowing. And then also they're going to look at the owner-tenant occupancy. They would like to have it lower than 50%. If you've got more than 50% rentals, again, the risk for them to lend the money is higher. So you want to try and keep rentals down if you can. And then being able to quickly get applications in for loans. Well, money is still available because it will run out as more and more associations make applications for monies. So it would be helpful to have at your fingertips, who you can go to, the people to contact, the phone numbers, to quickly contact them following an earthquake so that you can get applications in and get the money that you need in order to rebuild. So a board checklist, it would be, for the community manager, have them on speed dial, your insurance agent on also speed dial, and legal counsel, know who the banker is that you can contact, and it may be that there'll be 2 or 3 that you want to have contact information for, and disaster relief agencies, and then looking at your reserve fund liquidity. Because if your reserves are tied up in long-term CDs or T-bills or other kinds of instruments that you can't access, that may be 6 months, a year out before you can get to them, you want to stagger those so that you've got something coming available every 30 or 60 days so that you've got money coming available that you can access. So those are the kinds of things that boards should be looking at in what they can do to prepare for an earthquake, because what's going to happen. I think, Dr. Jones, did you say 700,000 have already been recorded? So it's just a matter of the smaller ones are happening all the time, and there's going to be a big one at some point, and it's going to affect your association.